Sail on by. Your time has come to shine. All your dreams are on their way.
Hello and welcome to the first official broadcast of the Contrarian News Network. My name is Michael Yates and I'll be your host for this network. This is a network where I'm going to do my best to dig up tidbits of information and morsels of knowledge that you may not have heard somewhere else, stuff that you're not going to get in the regular media, stuff that you may not even get in the alternative media. What I'm going to try and do is to strip away any of the fear and the sensationalism that you'll normally get in both of those medias for a matter of fact, and give you just stuff that make you think, things that made me think. And so with that, let's get on with the first news broadcast from the Contrarian News Network. So let's get started. I got a few stories I want to cover this time. The first one involves Europe. This is a story that's been going on for over a decade, in fact, but now it's starting to really matter. We're starting to see it play out in a way that we're going to see what the end game is going to be. And what that is Europe and its energy dependence on Russia. Now, we've all heard that Russia supplies an awful lot of the energy to Europe, and that's no secret. But the usual slant on this story is that they're making Russia rich. Russia's having all this business and all this money come in from Europe. And although that may be true, it's not the whole story. So let me tell you the story behind the story. First off, it's important to understand that of all the countries in Europe, that are energy dependent on Russia, the one that is the most dependent on Russia is in fact Germany itself, the most important country in Europe. Now you say, well, why does that matter? Who cares where they get their energy from? Well, let me tell you, it matters a whole lot. Besides the obvious trade implications, which I talked about before, the revenue stream to Russia, which is important, to make no mistake, that's what keeps their economy going, which gives them the money to build up. So that's important. But what's more important is the fact that no nation risks its national security by being energy dependent on what it considers an enemy country. Now, Russia and Germany have come to blows before. We know that. They have had a war before or two. So, why would you want to be energy dependent on a country that is your enemy? All they need to do is simply shut off your energy when the war breaks out and you're crippled. You can't even fight the war, especially when you need 40%. You see, Germany still needs to keep their economy going and turn the lights on for the country just for civilian purposes. If they were to lose 40% of their energy, there's no way they could fight a war. And so what this is evidence of is that in fact Germany and Russia are very close allies, and so much so that Germany trusts Russia with 40% of its energy. Something you're not going to do with an enemy. So I want to submit that that is extremely important, and it has already occurred. It's in fact occurred and is the truth and the facts right now. So what we have is we have Russia, China, and Germany now interlinked in energy trade. Those are three very powerful countries in the world, and they all have a good reason to be friends, and they are friends in an alliance over energy through Russia. This is also important because Germany is a key ally, maybe even the key ally for the U.S. in Europe. Now, outside of the United Kingdom, Germany wields an awful lot of influence. Without Germany's help, the U.S. and the U.K., for that matter, are going to lose a lot of influence in Europe. And what I think is happening here is that's already occurred because of these energy deals with Russia. And so the U.S. is probably aware of this, which is why they're spying on Angela Merkel's phone and putting all the NSA hardware to work on Germany, which is obviously not helping the situation. And so what we might see here, which I think we're going to see here, is the U.S. and U.K. finding themselves more and more isolated in the world, which is kind of ironic considering it's the very thing they've been saying that are warning Russia that is going to happen to them. So on the economic front, another story, most people are partying like it's 1929, while the big money has quietly left the building. Yes, in the last month or two, or maybe 3 or 4, the big and smart money has left the building. They've left the market. Doesn't mean every penny has left, but an awful lot of it has. That's never a good sign for any market. By the way, when the big money slips away, because there's very little left to support the markets should a negative surprise occur. And don't those negative surprises always occur? But this time we have the Federal Reserve itself pouring the wine and filling the punch bowl. And it's been one heck of a party, hasn't it? Boy, that Federal Reserve, they sure know how to throw a party. And everyone believes the Fed can and will support the markets forever. But they obviously are not familiar with the law of diminishing marginal returns. Well, what exactly is that? The diminishing marginal returns simply states that the more inputs, the similar inputs that you put into a production, the less the returns you get out over time. And that's exactly what we're seeing now with their printed money and their lowering rates. When will it end? Only God Himself knows. But one thing I do know is that when it does end, it's going to be the ugliest crash since 1929 and possibly worse. Why is that? Because we've pulled all of the levers that we normally rely on to prevent such a catastrophe. Levers such as lowering interest rates. Normally we could lower interest rates and that'll slow the mess down, the catastrophe down. Well, rates are at the lowest they've been since World War II, maybe even lower. And isn't that interesting itself? We have the lowest rates, probably lower the rates than World War II, which was a time of great crisis. Are we in a time of great crisis? Apparently our leaders and those that run the world think we are because they have the rates that low. And so we won't be able to pull that lever. Well, what about printing money? That's another way we usually get out of these things. Well, check that box off too, because we've been printing money for the last 5 years, trillions of dollars all over the world, many trillions of dollars. Did you know China has printed $15 trillion US in the last 5 or 10 years? Of course, they didn't print US dollars, but converting the yuan into US dollars, it's 15 trillion. And we thought the Fed's 4 or 6 trillion was an awful lot. So how's this going to end? Heaven help us, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be good. But one of my favorite sayings is, wealth doesn't disappear, it merely changes hands, from weak hands to strong hands. See, I'm not here telling you that it's the end of the world. What I'm telling you is that this is a time to not be watching American Idol and to be paying attention to what's going on. And not just to save yourself from a lot of pain and suffering, but also to prosper, because I'm all about prospering. In my next broadcast, I'll go into some detail on how to ensure that you are the strong hand and not the weak hand. But for now, I'm going to bring an end to this broadcast. I want to say thank you for joining me for the first broadcast of the Contrarian News Network. And this is Michael Yates signing off. Have a good day or a good night.
Sail on, silver girl. Sail